The voice of sharing. 旅人的香。
Hi, this is Arlene, and today we are going to have a very interesting guest all the way from Singapore. He will be sharing with us about the work he's doing. He's actually with Engage Media, and he's doing a lot of digital media for advocacy work. So, Seelan, Palay, welcome to the discussion today.
Hi, Arlene. Very happy to be on the program.
Could you introduce yourself and the work you are currently doing right now?
Yes, my name is Seelan Palay, and I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for Engage Media, which is an NGO that focuses on video for change. Basically, we work with video and activists and filmmakers and communities to use the new media, online and offline strategies to advocate for human rights and environmental change.
With English Media working there, you have been attached to the organization since 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I've working here close to 3 years already.
Oh, close to 3 years. So
Yes.
within that 3 years span, you have been traveling all over Southeast Asia promoting activism via digital media.
Yes, this digital media, yes, with a focus on video.
Mm-hmm.
To be clear, it's a focus on video,
Mm-hmm.
but of course we also conduct workshops on internet security,
Mm-hmm.
and those are some of the things conducted by my colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Can you share with us about Engage Media? Like, where is it from, and what is its aim and goals?
Yes, where we were actually founded in Australia about 8 years ago, and since then we've been working throughout. Our focus has always been throughout the Asia Pacific, but naturally we've been focusing on Southeast Asia for most of our projects and our work.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of different kinds of work. For example, we conduct workshops with communities, with activists. We also conduct camps where video journalists and video activists from around the region can come together and share knowledge and skills. And we also organize kind of like video advocacy projects.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we have a project called Papuan Voices, which is a project where we started video journalism, a citizen journalism
Mm-hmm.
project in West Papua, where people on the ground can make video stories about Papua and tell the stories in their own voice. So these are some of the and then we package all this content and we distribute it to a wider audience, online and offline. So those are some of the things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
We also one of our primary projects is engagemedia.org. That's where we host all of our content and also the content of others. So it's an open source, free and open source platform where people can register accounts and upload their video and other content. It's kind of like it's kind of like a YouTube for activists.
With activism as the focus of your work now, why do you think activism is very important in Southeast Asia, and why do you think that via digital media such as video to sort of spread the message of the activism itself is important?
Yeah, I think there's no question that we need to see a lot of urgent change in terms of human rights and environmental issues in Southeast Asia, because we have, by and large, I believe we don't have ASEAN doesn't have a proper human rights commission, and a lot of the countries in ASEAN have severe issues in terms of media freedom and civil liberties and environmental protection and so on. And video is one of the tools that we think we believe is very crucial and important in bringing about these changes, because it's the easiest way to communicate an idea or a message, in the sense that, you know, in many parts of Southeast Asia, you have people who are even illiterate, in rural areas and communities and all that. But video is something that they can understand. Everyone can understand, because they can hear and they can watch, and it's proven to be one of the most effective medias in order to translate ideas across.
And
across the board.
you have been doing this for years, if I'm not mistaken. I saw some of the work that you have did in the past before even you joined English Media, where you use video as a powerful tool to sort of spread the message across the world. And I think one of the involvement that you did was related to the migrant workers. Maybe you can share with us more about your experience.
I have been working with video for advocacy for 10 years already, actually. Most of my work was done in the context of Singapore, and a bit for like countries like Burma and Malaysia and so on. One of the things that me and my activist friends in Singapore used to do was we used to make videos, not only on issues, but also to document the actions that we took, or some of the public actions that we took. So I think the video that you're referring to is a protest that we held outside the Ministry of Manpower, because during the time of the conflict in Burma, where activists and citizens were being shot in the streets, there were some of our Burmese friends in Singapore who were migrant workers here, and they were organizing their community here to demonstrate about the issues going back home. So many of these people got their work permits cancelled, and they were forced to leave Singapore. So me and my friends, we were quite upset about it, and we held a demonstration outside the Ministry of Manpower, and one of us did a video recording of that incident and put it online. So then after that, after we were arrested, my friend who recorded the video uploaded it. So while we were in prison, immediately the video went online, and a lot of the international media picked it up, and it was an effective action and also a video, because after that incident, we saw none of the main leaders who were organizing the demonstrations were kicked out after that. Yep.
Can you share with us other stories of activism across Southeast Asia that you think really highlighted the need for social media, digital media, and I guess with a simple tool like your smartphone or a camera to spread whatever message or cause that they were trying to do?
Examples from Southeast Asia, yeah. I would say Indonesia is a very good example, and also a very recent example. As some would know, Indonesia is the Twitter capital of the world. It has the most number of Twitter users in the world, and during the recent presidential election and the legislative election before that in 2014, Facebook and things like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube were used not only by the parties involved, by the candidates, but also by the citizens. They were producing and sharing a lot of content on a daily basis, and everyone was doing this majority were not doing this from a laptop, but from their smartphones. So and that's in Indonesia alone. And what more can we say about places with even faster and more stable internet connections? Places like Singapore or Malaysia, you'll definitely see um, smartphones and online media and communications playing a very big role in terms of activism and advocacy.
You being, can you share with us the people that you have trained so far in terms of trying to advocate them to use these tools to promote the cause, that whatever the cause that they are trying to promote?
Yeah, last year in 2013, I ran a project in Malaysia. It's called Crossroads, and that was a project working with migrant workers, refugees in Malaysia. So we held a whole series of about 10 over trainings with migrant workers and refugees in Malaysia, and we trained them in video skills and video production and distribution skills. And at the end of it, we produced a DVD and a toolkit for the project, and we then we distributed it, and we also held screenings in Kuala Lumpur and also in Sabah and also in Indonesia. So this year we're actually going to go into the next phase of that project, which is to further to focus more on the distribution and outreach of the final productions. So that was one of the experiences that we had.
What are the key issues that you can let us know that Southeast Asia is facing right now in terms of violation of human rights, or any other areas that these activists are trying to voicing it out?
I think a place that all of us should focus our attention and efforts on is actually Cambodia. Recently, I've been following the issues there quite a lot, and I've been quite alarmed by the level of injustice that's going on in Cambodia right now. In terms of one is in terms of labor. Workers in Cambodia are severely underpaid, and when they try to organize to fight for these rights, they're often they're shot. Some are killed and beaten by the police and sent to prison and so on. And some of the charges are very unjust and very cruel. And many of these even women who are demonstrating for their rights get abused by the police and so on. And the situation is quite violent and severe there. So I do think that Cambodia is one place that everyone needs to focus on. Of course, there are organizations like Voice of Democracy from Cambodia, which is a news portal, and they've been making some videos and of course a lot of news reports. And they are one of the organizations we can follow for more news from there.
It's interesting that you highlight Cambodia, because I think a lot of those living in countries like Malaysia, Singapore, or Indonesia usually would prefer to highlight issues that either is within the our immediate neighbor, or we would rather look at the politics of other regions like the Europe, the US, and other bigger issue out there. But we fail to see that there are also other issues that are really pressing in other countries in Southeast Asia. But besides Cambodia, I think a lot of the Southeast Asian countries are either semi-democratic or authoritarian, or worse is dictatorial. In your own opinion, what are the challenges that usually these activists would face in terms of trying to highlight the causes?
Well, I think it varies, the kind of challenges that activists face in different countries. On one level, it's also quite similar, because depends how much they dislike you. In a sense, like in Malaysia, you have people who are jailed and sent to court, charged and fined, and that happens in Singapore as well, very much. In Indonesia, generally we see less. I personally have seen less um, less less how you say, like legal suits
I see.
taken taken upon activists in recent times. But at the same time, in Indonesia, there are places like West Papua, where the Indonesian military has a very strong presence, and there have been incidents of unjustified violence in West Papua. So it really varies from place to place, and then you have a place like Thailand, where there's very much a civil tension that was happening even up till earlier this year, that was caused by different political factions, and what we see after that is actually the result of that hasn't been a crackdown per se. Yes, of course, some people have been charged and jailed for even posting things on Facebook. Like a friend of mine who's a journalist with this a news organization called Prajatai, he was arrested just for posting something on Facebook.
I see.
Yeah, so it really varies, but the common thread is, none of the Southeast Asian countries, I would consider them democratic in that sense. I wouldn't even use the word they have semblances of democratic processes, like elections and so on, but that doesn't mean that we can consider these countries democracies at all.
So the challenges that usually they would face, what are the things that you would train them in order for them to reduce the risk for them to be caught by the government, and at least play along safe lines, or knowing the tricks how to avoid certain things or discuss certain issues?
Yeah, I think every activist or NGO has different approaches to achieving the common goal, which is of course social justice and so on. And some activists will take a more direct approach, and others would not. So I wouldn't be the one to recommend that people change their style, because everyone has their own way in reacting to their situation and their reality. But for people who do want to stay a bit safer, especially those who are working in online environments, which are rather sensitive on very sensitive issues, that's the reason why we advocate internet security and other techniques related to that, in order to help people be safe on the internet.
For you, being part of this, what do you foresee for in the near future, like young people to be able to dwell into this? Because I think majority of the society in Southeast Asia are the younger generation. They are younger than 40 years old. But I think a lot of them also, they are not really aware of the complexity of how the countries in Southeast Asia are being run. Or even if they are aware, I think they feel that they are being tied down by what is required, to be a good citizen, or to be a citizen that do not really challenge the status quo or call for democracy. So in the long run, how can these video projects that you are either conducting trainings, or you're conducting seminars, or you are participating together with them to to pursue all these video courses that involve videos and other digital media, at the end of the day, like, what kind of expectation that you are hoping to nurture out of this engaged media and this particular project?
Yeah. I think generally, from my own experience in Singapore, which is very much politically repressed, in terms of freedom of expression and speech. In the 90s, when internet connections were not as fast and not as, and there was more or less a rampant fear in society to say anything openly. And after the year 2000, when internet technology became more advanced, we definitely saw an increase in political dialogue, more like an explosion in political dialogue and discussion. And I think that's one of the primary reasons why many young people came out and spoke their minds, and at least had a forum and a chance to find out more alternative information, because some people would know in Singapore all our radio, television, newspapers are all owned and controlled by the state. So the internet was kind of an open forum for everyone to participate and educate themselves on alternative ideas. And we saw that after 2000, this whole culture of alternative media and citizen media grew until the last election we had 2 years ago, which the last recent election we had, which saw Singapore having its highest number of opposition vote percentage since independence. So the ruling party which has ruled for about 50 years, got its lowest ever vote count, in history. And I would attribute a large part of that to the advent of the internet in Singapore and people getting out there and getting involved. And not only online, people organize events offline, like at Speaker's Corner, and people gather, and then all that content, all that expression that happened there goes back onto the internet, as a kind of growing cycle. So that's a really interesting process.
Yeah.
And as for engaged media and the work that we do in the videos, video is one component out of the entire ecosystem of human rights advocacy we're trying to do in Southeast Asia. But I have to say that it's a very important component because, like I mentioned before, it's really been the most effective form of media and communications to relate ideas and to bring about change. Yeah.
Thank you very much. But we will definitely continue our conversation in a few minutes. Just have a short break.
The voice of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
Hi, this is Arlene back again with Seelan Palay, and we are continuing our discussion on activism via digital media with a focus on videos as what engaged media is propagating. And in Malaysia, in Singapore, Indonesia, and all other Southeast Asian countries, as we all know, as we discussed earlier, these are, a mix between semi-democracy to the dictatorship sort of system. While promoting activism is one thing, but I'm just figuring out, like, all these stories that you gather, all these causes and events that happen, how to create a more impactful sort of video that people can actually understand the message and be empowered to do something.
Yeah. So on as to how we've used video for change in that sense. For example, in one of our video projects, which is called Papuan Voices, we had a very successful video there called Love Letter to a Soldier, where a West Papuan woman who had a child, was in love and had a child with an Indonesian soldier, who then kind of disappeared. She was writing a kind of love letter to him, and we made a video. There was a video made about that process, and that video was screened in several audiences and several film festivals, and it has even won awards. And one of the direct impacts we had after that was that people who watched the video also got to know that she's not just one woman. There's not just one case like that. Like in that village alone, there are a few women who had children with Indonesian soldiers who then disappeared. Um, and some of the viewers got together and set up a fund to set up a small business, a small shop for these women in that village area. So that's actually one of the most direct impacts we've seen in the Papuan Voices project.
I'm glad that the focus is on Papua, because as we all know, there's very little attention, even in the whole region of Southeast Asia towards Papua. Very little information come out about what is happening right now. And if I'm not mistaken, Papua is still having some sort of a distress engagement towards the Indonesian government. So when you do all these stories, what did you have in mind? What kind of story that you wanted to tell to the audience of Southeast Asia?
Well, as far as all our projects go, we don't actually write the stories. We always get a group of people together who are involved in the issues or who are affected by them, and we have story circles where people share stories, and these are then developed into story ideas, for the short advocacy videos that we help them to produce. So it's very much how they angle it, but definitely we in West Papua itself, where we've been more interested in telling the stories on the ground, like about the community and about the people, because sometimes when it's in the news, West Papua is about some of the conflict. There's an independence movement there, and there are clashes between the army and those people and the fighters. So those are some of the focuses that we have. But how the people live, the things they go through, including the problems that they face, environmental, social, cultural, economic. These are all highlighted in the Papuan Voices project, and it's very much a part of what we want to do. Many people have made there have been many videos about West Papua, but these have mostly been made by non-Papuans. So our focus is to make sure that West Papuans tell their stories for themselves, and that's been our focus, not only there but even in the Crossroads project in Malaysia and the other projects that we run.
Yeah, I was looking at the Crossroads project, which I thought it is something very unique and interesting, because you really highlighted all these diverse stories of migrant workers and migrant families as well, living in Malaysia, and what kind of situation they are facing right now.
Yes.
Maybe you can share with us more, like some of the stories that were being told in the Crossroads.
Yeah, so Crossroads was a very interesting process as well, because all our participants, for them, it was a first-time experience as well. So we had a mixed group of migrant workers from Indonesia and also Nepal, and also refugees from Burma, and we got together and they worked together and learned together in this process. And some of the interesting stories that came out were one such as there was one of a Nepali migrant worker who was working in a factory and had his fingers cut off, and how he did not get any compensation from the boss, and only through this trade union, this Nepali trade union that operates in Malaysia, did he manage to finally get some sort of compensation and head back to Nepal. But the story also tells his tale of how he doesn't know how to go on with the future because he doesn't know how to face his family. He hasn't told them yet, and so on. So it kind of highlights two things. One, also the lack of safeguards for migrant workers in various industries in Malaysia, and it also highlights the work that migrant workers themselves are doing to help each other in these what I would call dire situations. Another would be In Search of Shelter, which is about Burmese refugees in Malaysia, and if I'm not wrong, more than 50% of them don't have proper documents from the UN to prove their refugee status. So the kids who are there, they can't enroll into any schools either. So some of the Burmese refugees, they got together and they set up small education centers, schools for the kids. And these are really, really small rooms with very few facilities, but they got together and ran these schools for the refugee kids, you see. And the thing is, and in the video, we highlight, some of the people involved. And in fact, the problem is even the teachers of that school for the refugees were arrested themselves, on charges of not having proper documents and so on. So it's like a cycle of it's quite a vicious cycle, the whole thing,
Besides the story of Malaysia that you highlighted and of Papua, but you also highlighted stories of inspirational voices like the Suara Baru.
Yeah, that was our most recent video project called Suara Baru's New Voices. So it was in line with the presidential election that just happened in Indonesia. So what we were trying to do there is we made an open call to young people and also people that we trained before who are young people, and we told them to submit short advocacy videos or videos, which contain reflections on what they think about the presidential elections and their hopes and dreams, for the nation in the future. So we got a total of about 12 submissions, and they came from West Papua, they came from Java itself, and we even had 2 from Malaysia, where like even Indonesian migrants in Malaysia. These videos were actually made by our Crossroads participants, you see, who were trained by us. So it's all about building our network and training them and bringing them together in times like this. For example, the Suara Baru project, we brought everyone together to create a collaborative voice, and we had many interesting videos from that project as well. People can watch all of these videos. They're all subtitled in English, so you can, language is not going to be an issue as well. Yeah.
Anyway, my last question of today, what is the way forward, the future that you are looking at in terms of activism and the new era, the new digital era? What kind of the future of activism that you foresee young people will participate and the change that would bring forth towards ASEAN?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm always focused on Southeast Asia. Of course, issues from other parts of the world affect me, and I'm concerned about them. But I always consider myself Southeast Asian first, not even a Singaporean first.
I see.
Yeah, and things that happen in the region, the situation that we face as a people. I'm very concerned about these things, and my hope for the future is that more and more people get access to more faster and more stable internet connections, and that everyone can communicate and discuss and dialogue and understand each other more, not only the issues within their own countries but also outside, and see the commonalities between what each other are facing, for what everyone is facing. For example, when we show a video of problems, issues that are going on in Cambodia, when we screen it to an audience in Indonesia, for one, sometimes they are reminded of what happened during Suharto's era, and when it's an issue on poverty, they see like they they see that there are people all across Southeast Asia who are facing the same problems, and it's important to not only look at the problems but also look at how people deal with them in terms of finding solutions, which is one of the focuses that I hope to work on. It's a concept called solutions journalism, where journalists, content creators are encouraged to focus on the solution to the problem or examples of the solution rather than only talking about the problems itself. Only talking about the problems themselves. So, in terms of my own work and the organization moving forward, I think we want to look at those methodologies as well. On the whole, in order to achieve greater human rights and environmental justice in Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing with us your perspective and your experience working at English Media. All the best, and I hope that more and more young people will take activism seriously and use tools like videos to highlight the causes that they want to highlight.
Yeah, thank you very much, Arlene. It's a good interview.